All right, well, I want to thank everyone for joining us. We wanted to talk about a couple of things this afternoon. And, firstly, let me just acknowledge, we'll introduce the folks who are going to be speaking, but we're here with our open space department, and Parks and Rec, also our open space APD team, as well as sort of the wildland and rescue crew from AFR. And so we're going to be talking about the challenges that we're having on the river right now, especially with respect to public safety. And let me begin by stating that yesterday we announced that we're on target for our 100 new officers coming out into the field. And we want to emphasize today that these two issues are actually related. As these 100 officers now come out in the field, it means that we're able to have more specialist officers doing the kinds of things like open space patrol and open water rescue and so forth. So want to reiterate that as these new officers come on board, it's actually helping all aspects of the department, including in this case what we're doing out on the Rio Grande. So we're here, of course, in our Bosque, which is part of our open space program, and out on the Rio Grande just below Central. And we want to highlight too, there's been several rescues lately, and one in particular involved a 7-year-old and a father who were out in inflatable devices like this. And when you have a chance, just as an aside, to kind of film what these are, we want to be really, really clear, these are not safe flotation devices for the river. I know in some ways it's comical. It was not for this father and their 7-year-old. And when AFR found them and APD Open Space was called in, they also found another group of folks who were stuck and trapped in the trees. And so we know that water recreation, when appropriate, with life vests and with training and a buddy system, can be fun, it can be enjoyable. It's something I even do from time to time, but you have to be as thoughtful as you would be in any other open water situation. You should definitely not view the Rio Grande right now as a swimming pool, and it will lead to a dangerous situation. So the way this works is basically the current is moving so fast, we'll go over the cubic feet and so forth, that you'll get pulled into the reeds and so forth on the sides, and these open water areas are where your recreational flotation devices will be popped and you will get stuck, and the river flow tends to be at least 7 feet, so you'll get pulled under and you'll drown. And so that's what we want to try and prevent today. So we're going to talk about what's going on. Of course, different situations like a full raft that's made for rivers with appropriate folks who are trained, this can be an enjoyable water experience. So we want to acknowledge that too. So that's what we're going to talk about today, as well as highlight now that we have a little bit more resources. We've got a long ways to go, but we are putting to good use our fan boat and our hovercraft and the other vehicles that are saving lives out on the Rio Grande right now. So to talk about some of that in more detail from our APD Open Space Division Officer Shannon. Is it officer, sergeant?
Officer.
Close.
Yes,
officer, I got it right. Okay, officer, and I'm going to stand close to you so they can hear, because my mics pick up you.
Okay.
So just go ahead.
Yeah, so basically what I want to talk about is, again, just to reiterate, don't go down the river in pool flotation devices. They're not going to stand up to the current as well as the brush and debris that's in the river. Most of our river rescues have involved individuals who are in pool flotation devices, and they get popped by a tree or some other object that's in the river, and then they're stranded out there. And so, again, if you're going to go in the river, make sure you're using equipment that is suitable for the river. Also, make sure you're wearing a properly fitted life vest. Make sure you tell someone where you're going. Go with friends, go with buddies. One of our river rescues, the way we got the call was their buddies called into 911 and advised them what was going on. So go with someone that has a cell phone with you, and just make sure you also have some way to get around, whether that be a paddle or something, so you can at least steer and maneuver whatever you're going to be floating down the river in. Again, make sure you do it in something that is made to go down the river and not in the pool flotation devices that you get at the supermarket.
Sounds good. All right, and share a little bit about that from the AFR perspective, our Battalion Chief Playa.
Mr. Mayor. Hello, so what we want to talk about is AFR's capabilities. The Albuquerque Fire Rescue, we have a crew stationed at Fire Station 3 on Girard. They're a heavy technical rescue task force. They're trained in swift water and river rescue techniques. They also have a inflatable boat and wetsuit capabilities, so they can come into the water and make rescues. The biggest thing I want people to keep in mind with the river is that Right now, it's flowing over 7,000 cubic feet per second, up from a normal of 2,200 cubic feet per second. So if you do decide to enjoy the water and get in the river, please wear a personal flotation device and approved, river equipment. So it's really.
All right. Thank you, Chief. All right, and then the director of our Parks and Rec Department, which of course oversees open space, also with some tips and pointers, Dave Simon.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank our colleagues at APD and AFR for the great work they do, the heroic work they have to do some days. We work together to protect this jewel that's our river and our bosque. I want to thank these gentlemen for their work. With the proper preparation and equipment, a trip down the Rio Grande in a canoe or a kayak, a paddleboard, or a raft can be a wonderful way, an enjoyable way to experience one of Albuquerque's most precious natural resources. Normally, under normal conditions, this stretch of the Rio Grande through Albuquerque offers gentle water, and it's really a great place to learn paddle sports. But under all conditions on this river, whether we're at normal conditions or high flow conditions as we are today, the most important thing the public has to remember is always to boat safe and boat smart. While you're on the river, all boaters in a kayak, a paddleboard, a raft, or a canoe must comply with New Mexico boating safety laws. This is a requirement. The two things that all paddle sports users on this river must have with them at all times when they're on the river, there are two things that you must have. One is a Coast Guard approved personal flotation device. And I can just tell you that life jackets do not work unless they are on and buckled. The second thing that a boater must have on this river is a whistle or a horn that can be heard within half a mile. Those two things, a Coast Guard approved PFD and a whistle, are required. It also helps to have with you another life-saving device such as a throw bag or a throw cushion. And if you're in a canoe or a kayak, no smart boater goes anywhere without a spare paddle. The one thing you should never bring on the river is alcohol. And mixing alcohol and boating is a dangerous combination. It's also against the law, and boating under the influence will be prosecuted the same way in the state as driving under the influence. So, right now we have very high flow conditions. I would say above 3,000 or 3,500 cubic feet per second flows in this river. Only experienced river boaters should be on the Rio Grande. And we urge everyone to boat safe and boat smart. Thank you.
All right, so what we'll do, if there are some questions too, we also know if folks are interested in the different capabilities that we do have, we have some folks too to talk about that. But again, we want folks to enjoy the river, but with the flow and the depth so high right now, there's really, you got to do it safely. And so that's what hopefully this summer will be all about for Albuquerque. Thank you.
I urge all paddle sport enthusiasts and people who go on the river to take a free online paddle sports safety class. And you can find that free online class on paddle sport safety at boatexam.com.
Nice. And there are companies that also will take you, to
Right.
like there's different float companies, especially around Bernalillo,
Right.
there's a couple of them. But with the
Right.
proper training, I've been out here, I was out here Saturday and with proper gear, and it's a really fun time, but you got to be ready with your rafting A game this time of year.
That's right. And our livery companies, they're cautious and safety is their focus. And above river flows of 3,000 cubic feet per second, they do not generally allow unguided trips through their livery companies. So really above 3,000 CFS or 3,500 CFS, you should be an experienced boater to be on the Rio Grande. We have a jewel that flows through our city, Mayor. It's a very, very important ecological and economic resource for our city, and we can grow appropriate use of the river for recreational boating, but we all need to do it the right way.
Other questions? All right. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.